What up, wholesaling family? Mike Hill, the wholesaling titan here with a very, very special treat for you today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the most important things you need as a wholesaler and one of the most important players on your team. So what I'm talking about here is an investor-friendly title company. They're going to facilitate your deals, help you solve your problems, and ultimately cut your checks. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the role and the purpose of a title company, how to choose one, how to choose the right one, title insurance, what it is, why you need it, how the closing process works, what you need to happen as a wholesaler, what your buyers need. And rather than me discuss this in my typical format, I'm bringing on a very, very special guest today, the founder and CEO of my preferred title company, Independence Title, also an Amazon best-selling author, national real estate speaker. He was also featured on NBC and in other publications. Here is my call with none other than the title king himself, Mr. Kevin Tacher. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. And I think we're live, man. So, Kevin Tacher, everybody, here with Independence Title. Thank you so much for being here, man. Really, really appreciate this. As I told you a moment ago, just going to kind of jump right into this thing. Essentially, everyone, Kevin is the founder, owner. I'll let you do your own intro. You'll probably do a little bit better. Of Independence Title, the best company you guys will find here in Florida. And basically what happened is I had a bunch of questions from my social media. One of them, Willie King. So shout out to subscriber Willie King. Some great questions. So I started making this video about, hey, what is a title company? What is title insurance? I said, you know what? Instead of me doing this, why not bring on the king himself, right? So a special treat for you guys here today. Now, I do have a list of questions I'm going to run through, but Kevin, as you know, information online can be plentiful. So let's start and just say, well, why should we trust you, man? What makes this guy the greatest? So if you want to give us a quick intro on why we should listen to the title king himself, I'll give you the floor.
Absolutely. I think first it's because you tell everyone to, right? That's the first reason. But no, seriously, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm on a lot of your webinars. The person that taught you the wholesaling business many years ago, I do his closings. I've been doing his mentoring closings. The person that mentored that person, I still do his closings to this day. So I've been doing this 18 plus years. I've closed over 10,000 deals. I know double closings. I know assignment of contracts. I know joint venture agreements. I know pretty much every aspect of real estate investing when it comes to the title insurance side, but also looking at the deal from your shoes as well, right? So I understand how to buy and sell property and land trust. I mean, so many things in which we'll probably get into a lot with your questions. But again, it's 18 plus years of experience. And for those of you that have read my book and know my story, I'm a former firefighter. And one of the things I do really well is I go in the deal together and I leave the deal together, because as I wrote about in my book, there was a time when a firefighter saved my life. And if it wasn't for him taking me with him and waiting for me, I may not be here to tell the story today. So I go in together and I leave together and make sure you get paid, I get paid, and everyone else gets paid, and the deal closes successfully.
And that's how we love it. All right. Awesome, man. Awesome. So I do want to talk to you about your books and a little bit of background, everything. But I figured we'll start, from the very beginning, right? So we're going to go back to myself. I'm a brand new wholesaler. It's 2012. I've never done a deal before. I'm about to send you my very first contract. But before I do, man, what is this title insurance? What is it? Why do we need it? Why do investors need it? Wholesalers, why is it important to us?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. You don't necessarily need title insurance. It's not a requirement, but obviously we love to provide that service. The problem you're going to find is, so title insurance is not a required insurance. What's going to happen is, though, you're not going to find someone to close your deal because that's what they sell, right? They sell title insurance. So we sell an insurance policy that basically is different than typical insurance. So you think about car insurance, health insurance, they're insuring on future risk, which is why you pay for it every single month. You pay your premiums, right? You pay a car insurance premium, health insurance premium, life insurance premium. We charge a one-time insurance premium, and we're actually checking backwards. So what we do is we run a lien search and a title search on the property. We want to check the history of the property to make sure nobody has the right to come back and tell you as the buyer that we have rights to your property. And that's when title insurance will kick in. And we've seen several claims along the way over 18 years, right? You see claims come up. that those clients are glad they had insurance.
Right. So just to clarify that, if I have my health insurance, that's if something happened in the future, I'm covered. And you guys are saying, we're going to make sure that the person selling you this actually owns it. Not like now, Mr. Wolf, if you remember that guy.
Woof, exactly. Woof. The guy didn't own anything, right? But he had title,
some fraudulent cases over there.
Yeah, so you don't know, right? These people could be holding title to the property, and it's our job to do the history to make sure it's not a fraudulent transfer. How long have they owned it? How did they acquire it? We look at the chain of title to see the length of history of the deeds that have gone from person to person. So, there's a lot of work that goes into what's called the title examination to make sure that that buyer gets free and clear title of that property.
Perfect. And that kind of leads to this question I got said, Mike, what is underwriting? What does an underwriter do?
Absolutely. So the underwriter is who provides you the title insurance. So the way I like to tell you is it's almost like you're going to an independent insurance agent, ABC insurance agent. And what they're doing is they're shopping around your deal to the best underwriter. Now, with title insurance, it's regulated. So there is no better price if you go to one national underwriter versus another one. We use different national underwriters for different reasons. Some are better and more conservative when it comes to investor deals. Some are better on refinances. But we are an insurance agent licensed in the state of Florida, and we underwrite our insurance premiums through a national title insurance underwriter, typically A-rated underwriters that write title insurance throughout the entire country.
Beautiful. And you would say, what percentage of people that you work with are, I guess, investors? Because I know not every title company's investor friendly, not everyone's wholesaling friendly. So as you said, you guys do assignments, double closings, and there are a lot of title companies that I've dealt with that do not work with land trusts. But you guys, that's a big part of how I learned this strategy between you and Lex, working with you guys do land trusts as well. So tell us about working with investors.
Yeah, absolutely. So a large portion of our business, we started working with investors. I sit on the board of some of the real estate clubs in town, and I've helped start real estate clubs in town. So we do a lot with investors. So we do invest a lot of time because one of the things I've learned is that education is king, right? Being educated is most important. So I found that the investors, sort of like yourself many years ago, obviously we're always learning. But many years ago, people that were in your shoes, they're constantly searching for education and training and just learning the business. So I found that being in the investor world is a great avenue for me to be the teacher because I just love to teach people. So I would probably say 65% of our business is investor business. And the other percentage is a mix between refinances and then your traditional realtors. And, we do teach a lot of the investors to go get your real estate license as well. So it's kind of a mix of those, they take up both categories depending on what type of deal they're closing.
Gotcha. And that's one thing that I do, even with coaching some of my students. I know you guys have closed some of them. I think we got one over there right now. But it's kind of this balance between, I don't want them to have this analysis paralysis thing where they just never take action. And then I might be a little guilty of sometimes I just jump into stuff a little bit too much. That's kind of my personality type. But that's one thing I can say with you guys, particularly, let's say Mark and Stephanie, just especially starting, man, help. I know you guys can't be legally responsible for stuff, but kind of teaching me as we go along. So I would have questions. Hey, man, what does this mean? Or line this on the HUD. What does that mean? And you guys are very thorough in actually explaining that as well. So I just want to throw that out there. We definitely.
Yeah, I think I think at the bottom line is your mistake is my mistake, right? So if I don't teach you how to not make mistakes, your mistake is going to come back to not only bite you, but it's probably going to come back and bite me. We got to get the deal closed just like you. So if you make a mistake that causes that deal to cancel or not close, it's our mistake as well. Because like I said, we're in it together. So it's very important.
So sometimes, people see some, let's say a HUD statement I have, and they say, man, look at these closing costs. Do I need to have this money coming out of my pocket? And they think, oh, I need money to close on these deals. Can you explain how the fees work and why, spoiler alert, why it doesn't come out of your pocket?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it depends on the deal, obviously. If you're big with wholesaling, right? You're teaching wholesaling. So no, the closing costs don't necessarily come out of your pocket. They come out of your profit. but you're not putting that money up. You know, a typical wholesaler is going to put up anywhere from a $10 deposit up to, it could be up to like 10% of the deal. But you can average, I would say, get away with, you know, let's say $1,000 deposit. So if you have $1,000, you can set your deposit with a title company, actually get a deal under contract. Then someone would put up the transactional funding for you. They'll fund the deal for you. And then you just make the spread, the profit less the closing costs. So you don't need to come up with the money in order to wholesale. You just need to have a good mentor like Mike. And then once Mike teaches you the business, you have that extra $1,000 you put up for a deposit, find it, flip it, and you make the money.
Exactly. And so I'm going to clarify, because I get this question a lot, but just so you guys understand, we're taking in this instance, you know, double closing. So if I get a property under contract, 100,000, I flip it for, let's say 120,000. And let's say my closing costs and stuff on the B2C, you know, come out, or the A to B rather, were like, let's say $2,000 just for ease of the math. I'm not paying that out of my pocket. It's just that when you guys cut me the check, instead of sending me 20,000, you're going to send me 18,000. So that's what we kind of mean there. All right, let's see. So we talked about the charges, stuff like that. I think that's pretty clear. In terms of, do I have to be there physically? Do I need to go to the title company? Not that we wouldn't want to meet you, but do we have to show up?
You don't. You know, I mean, COVID, you know, what I tell people, and I've been on a lot of webinars and talking about COVID and how title companies are not able to adapt to online remote closings. And I laugh sometimes because with COVID, you know, we have been doing online remote notarization since 2018. January 2018, we started this remote online notarization. You know, so for us, it is super important to be able to teach people that you don't have to walk into a title company to do a closing. We can actually do a closing via DocuSign and online remote notarization, and you could be sitting in Vegas, waking up in the morning and close your deal, right? I mean, you could sit in a hotel room in Vegas and close your deal, no problem. You don't even need to print documents and send them to us anymore. As long as you have a cell phone with a camera on it, you do your full closing, fully automated with a closer in my office.
And I remember, yeah, like you said, this is way before COVID. You guys, I think, I don't know if you were the first or one of the first in the whole state to even get approval for that, right?
Yes, we were actually the first.
I thought, yeah.
First title company to be approved. Now, full disclosure, I wasn't the first one to complete it because it took a little bit to get the deal under contract, you know, to be able to get it closed. So we didn't beat that timeline, but we were the first title company approved by our national underwriter to close a fully automated online closing in the state of Florida. So
beautiful. And so to clarify, you mean to tell me you close anywhere in the state of Florida?
Anywhere.
Any deal?
As long as the ground is in Florida, we can close it. You don't have to be here, but the property needs to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So do you have any advice? I mean, obviously, I think anybody who's closing a deal in Florida knows where to go at this point. You know, when you have the choice, like I said, sometimes we deal with sellers or a lot of JV stuff where we can. But if someone's new and they're maybe out of state, how should they find a title company? What kind of questions should they ask when they call? Should they, how can they kind of vet the title company to make sure that they're looking out for their best interests?
Absolutely. So I've been on your last couple of webinars, and I think the last count I had, as you said, Independence Title, I think it was 86 times. So if they don't know where to go in Florida, they're listening to the wrong webinar. So yes, in Florida, you wouldn't call anyone but me. But again, sometimes you're forced to use the seller's title company. You may not get the choice, or you're in other states. You know, in a book I actually wrote with your mentor, I wrote it in 2009 called Title Insurance Tips and Secrets. And in the back of the book, I talk about vetting your title company. Like, check them out on Google. Make sure they have some reviews on Google, not just their Aunt Jane and their you know, Uncle Charlie that left them a Google review. You want to make sure they have a decent amount of reviews on Google and Facebook. Make sure they're active on social media, you know, that they have a presence. The other thing you want to ask them is, how many employees do they have? Is it just like a law firm or a title company that has maybe one paralegal? Or is it a company like ours that has 10 plus people at the office? So there's always someone able to answer the call, answer your question. They respond to emails fairly quickly. You know, I mean, like with any company you're going to do business with, you want to make sure you do your homework. You want to Google them. You want to check them out. You want to vet them, you know, because remember, your money is so important. And if you start working with the title company and then all of a sudden find out when you get to the closing table that you can't do a flip because they say it's illegal, you could have a problem where now what are you going to do? You're stuck. Your deposit went hard. You thought you were going to flip it, but they're not investor friendly. So most of the calls we get are, hey, I'm working with this mentor, Mike, and he gave me a list of questions to ask you. And I just want to just check you out, how long you've been doing business? Do you work with investors? Do you understand assignment of contracts and double closings? Do you know how to work with transactional funding? I mean, there are a number of different questions that you want to make sure you're vetting your title company because, like I said, your money is super important and you want to protect it. So you just need to make sure you're doing business with someone you know, like, and trust, and someone that has been doing these types of investor deals for a long time, and they understand how to massage the deal. Because I always say the art of the investor closing is how good of a massage therapist you are in massaging that deal across the finish line. What to tell people, how to work with people, how to get them to the finish line. Not calling the seller and saying, man, you gave this guy a great deal. He's flipping it for $30,000.
I was just going to mention it. I was just going to say, I've had these situations where they may do assignments, but because they're not keeping the parties separate, they're CCing the wrong people. And then I've had situations, where the seller's aware, I'm full disclosure, and there are obviously levels to it, but it just gets so mixed up. And then people think, because there are scam type stuff that goes on, and then they're just confused. It's not that you're like not in full disclosure, but because the communication is off, then people think you're trying something. And that's kind of hit me a few times where it's like, dude, come on, like, seriously, so that's really
very important, right? A title company can be a saver of a deal or a killer of a deal.
Yeah. On that note, one quick scenario: if we're doing a double closing and the seller is insisting I'm closing with their company, but I have someone investor friendly, my end buyer wants to close with you guys. Can you explain what a courtesy close is?
Yeah, I mean, so if we're closing the second side of the deal, we're allowed to legally get involved. So if you're flipping a deal and the seller gets to pick the title company, and now when you're selling the BC side, you as the seller gets to pick the title company, you would select a company like ours. And what we basically do is we shadow courtesy close. We shadow the front closing to make sure that our closing happens simultaneously, because our insurance policy is dependent upon their insurance policy closing successfully. So ultimately, we're taking all the risk because we're giving you, the buyer, the end buyer, a title insurance policy. We're giving you, the middle wholesaler, your profit. So we need to rely on that front title company to do their job properly in order to make sure we can actually insure title of the property. So it's an art of the closing, which we specialize in, where a lot of title companies won't do that if they're not doing both closings. Now, obviously, we would love to do both closings because it limits our scope of risk. But in certain circumstances where we can't, we do them all the time. We'll just shadow the front side to make sure it goes as smooth as possible. Make sure we check their title commitment versus our title commitment, their lien search versus our lien search, just to make sure, like, hey, we found something that maybe they didn't find, or they found something that maybe we didn't find. So we want to make sure we're all on the same page without telling them that we're flipping it, making a profit. Again, it's all in the art of the massage. So we want to make sure that we're working that deal properly to make sure we all get to the closing table and get paid. That title company wants to get paid. We want to get paid. You want to get paid. The end buyer wants the property. So, it's our duty to make sure that we get that deal done as seamless as possible.
Win-win-win situation. Guys, just really quickly, one thing I would say with that, the way I phrase this to the seller in these situations, I'd say, listen, I usually, I might ask, but some people are just adamant, or, in the case of JV, stuff like that. But the way I frame it is, once the seller sells, they're pretty much out of this thing. I'm like, I'm taking the risk, so you guys can do that, but I just want to have my title company do a courtesy close to ensure my interests are protected. And usually that's kind of all that it takes. But I think that is something very, very important. And that was a question I got. So just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the difference between an attorney versus a title company. So an attorney can represent you legally in the transaction. You can tell them, hey, here's my attorney, they're representing me. As a title company, we don't represent you, we represent the transaction, but obviously in order to close the second transaction, we need to represent that the first transaction closed successfully. So we have an obligation as a requirement for title to make sure that they closed successfully, the seller got paid, the mortgages got paid off, all the liens and judgments are paid off, and everything funded successfully so we can proceed and issue our title insurance policy. So that's what gives us the legal right to shadow the front closing, not give legal advice, but we shadow it to make sure that it's closing successfully so the end buyer can get a clear title policy.
And I have been in situations, guys, where the front end did tell me, hey, we're ready to go. And then you guys found some. Man, we had one where I had a property from Hubzu, AltaSource. I'm thinking big company, whatever. I forgot we did the A to B somewhere else. And probably like the week of closing, you guys came back and said, these guys don't own this. They don't own it at all. And then I remember going back and forth, emailing them. And I had a buyer up. They had a deposit up. Like everything was good to go. And they were basically, they just shrugged their shoulders. And I was kind of like, God, how could you do this to me? Like I wanted to see if I could pursue some type of legal something. And they were just like, oh well, whoops.
Right.
And so,
all the time. That's why title
sucks.
Insurance is important.
Yeah, imagine you buy something and then come to find out, I don't own it, but I tried to save a couple bucks and now I'm out,
A lot of money.
It'd be foolish for an end buyer to do that. But,
Absolutely.
people do dumb things.
All the time.
Okay, I think we had two more. One is, what is the average timeline, when we're talking about lien search, title search, about how long does that take? On average, I know there's different things happen.
So, and I'll explain to you the difference. So a title search usually comes back pretty quick. That's where, we can get it in 24 to 48 hours. The average is 72 hours if it's not a rush deal and there's no hurry. The lien search is what usually takes the longest. And the reason being is because what we're doing is we're hiring a third-party search company to basically call the municipality, which is going to be 3 different departments. So it could be the code enforcement department, it could be the building department for permitting, and it could be the utility department for the water department, to check the water bill. So we have to actually reach out to all 3 of these departments. Some of them only work 4 days a week. They're closed on Fridays. Some of them require to receive the check via mail. They don't even allow credit cards. So again, the delay is on the specific municipality. The average, we tell people, could be about 7 to 10 days. The city of Riviera Beach is 21 days, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Some you can go down there and get the search yourself. So it just varies. So I tell people a good rule of thumb is 7 to 10 days from the time it's ordered. Now remember, we don't necessarily order the lien search on day 1 because we want to make sure as a wholesaler, you have the deal locked up, you find an end buyer, you have deposits up, and then the 7 to 10 days starts from there. Because what happens is if all of a sudden we order the search, now we could run into a problem where the deal doesn't close and we're out the money.
Gotcha. And then earlier, I kind of was asking or alluding how much can we expect to pay for closing costs, but I think we already have a solution for that. You want to tell them how can we get this closing cost calculator?
Yeah, so the closing cost calculator is the best tool. You can go to floridaclosingcostcalculator.com. It's listed right on the website. You just click on it, put in your email, and it'll give you the calculator. Save the website for future use. And that's the most important tool because that's what's going to give you closing costs. You're going to say, I'm buying it for 50 and I'm selling it for 75. What are my closing costs? If you start calling a title company, they're busy. They're busy closing deals. Not that we won't take your call and answer it, but what I'm going to do is if you call me and say, what are closing costs? I'm going to teach you to fish, right? I'm not going to just teach you to fish. I'm going to teach you to fish. So I'm going to tell you, I'll be happy to send it to you, but next time, please go to the website because in literally less than a minute, you can calculate closing costs, play with the numbers, adjust the numbers a little bit, and do different things in order to make sure you're getting the accurate number.
Awesome. And so, guys, I will post those links down in the description. Highly recommend it. Something you could just use every time. Even if you're just trying to estimate what your numbers are, even before you find a buyer, you just want to kind of see where you need to be. That's a great resource that you have there. Kevin, I think that's about it for my questions. Can you tell these guys, where to find you, the best way to keep in touch? I'll put the links I can think of, website, Facebook, all that stuff down in the descriptions there, books. Just a lot of really, really good resources, guys. Someone very serious, been in the business, like you said, for a long time, and highly, highly recommended. So if you got any parting words or advice and you want to tell us how to find you,
No, I
please.
think mentor is the first thing. I appreciate you doing this interview to educate people. We love your students; they're very well educated. So the first thing I tell people is you need a good mentor to teach you the business. It's worth the investment for the mentor now to save you from the mistakes later. Just like it's super important to hire an investor-friendly title company to not kill your deal and lose the money later. So that's number one tip. And the second thing, like you said, the way to contact me, Facebook, you can friend request me personally. I accept you. I'm happy to chat with you, answer any questions you have. You can check out our Independence Title Facebook page. And then if you go to our website, which is titlerate.com, not only do you have the closing cost calculator, you have links to all of my books on there. I've authored 5 books now. So the Amazon links are all on there, as well as our YouTube channel, which has hundreds of videos talking about double closings and assignment of contracts and closing costs, how to read a closing statement, how to review a title commitment. I mean, pretty much every question you're going to ask, there's going to be a video on there. So just use it as a resource, check it out. And a lot of times if you call me with a silly question, I'm going to refer you to the video because I'd rather you watch it and learn. And again, I want to teach you to fish because that'll feed you forever.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everyone. There you have it. The Title King himself, Kevin Tacher, Independence Title down in Fort Lauderdale. Kevin, thank you so much for being here, for doing this. Guys, there'll be a bunch of links in the description. Highly, highly recommend you check it out. It's all good stuff. And wishing you guys the best. Awesome. I think it's going to be a good year. I think we got a lot of good potential coming.
Absolutely.
Trying to get ready for.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Kevin.
I look forward to seeing everyone soon.
All right. Thanks again, man. Take care.
All right. You got it. Bye.
All right. All right, so I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in for today's call. Again, this is very important. If you have any follow-up questions, need clarification on anything we said, it's so important to ask them. Don't be shy. Don't be ashamed. Please leave them in the comments section. I'm going to be checking these and getting back to you. Also, remember, you can find Kevin's information below. That includes access to his books, the free closing cost calculator. Again, this is an amazing must-have tool. How to find him on social media and, how to connect with his team. Now, before we close, I just want to make 2 really quick but really, really important points and tell a quick story. So at this point, you guys, it's pretty obvious. I'm a big fan. I'm a proud advocate for these guys and everything that they offer. The way I met Kevin and started working with him back in 2012 was actually simply because that's who my mentor closed with. So think about this, right? You guys know I'm a very big fan of mentorship in every area of my life, not just real estate. And that's because I'm just always looking for the fastest way to get from point A to point B. Some people call it lazy. I like to say efficient. It's not that you can't necessarily do these things on your own, but I'm just always looking for the fastest route. And so knowing that my mentor had started his business around like 2001, I looked at it as essentially saying, rather than making all the mistakes that he made in the last 10 years and trying to do all the networking he did in the last 10 years and vetting the right people, who to work with, who to be wary of, who to avoid completely, and gain the same resources he accumulated over the last decade, I could just use and piggyback off his efforts. And as a bonus, that association with him and his reputation kind of rubs off on me. So I was able to instantly meet and kind of have credibility with a lot of people in his network, including actually another wholesaler down here in Florida, a guy named Jim Van Dyke, who actually funded my very first double closing, which is really how I got started. So basically, I was able to shave off 10 years of my learning curve. So for more on this, by the way, I highly recommend you guys read Mastery by Robert Greene. He talks about the same topic, studies historical figures, analyzes how they obtain mastery through apprenticeship, things like that. I do have a mentoring program myself. You guys are serious about this. There's a link in the description if you're interested in learning more, and or if you want to set up a free call to talk with me. I have a few spots dedicated to that every week, but those do fill up really, really quickly, so make sure you check that out. But in addition to mentoring, this is why I always say you always want to be constantly networking and telling everyone you know what it is that you do, what it is you're looking for. You'd be surprised at who knows who and who has the resources that could change your life. Now, last point I want to make here, going back to Independence Title, is these guys obviously know what they're doing. The experience, professionalism, competency, skill set, that's all there. That's not to say that there aren't other competent title companies out there, right? Of course, there has to be. But the whole concept of people doing business with those they know, like, and trust, it's just so true. Like, obviously, I've closed my deals with independents, and given the recommendations where now my parents have closed deals with them, friends, many of my mentoring students. And that's because, I remember back when I first heard Kevin speak at one of my earliest RIA meetings. So this is like back in 2012 or so. And he was telling the story of him starting his business and how there were months where he couldn't really pay his staff, and people were going out of business, other places were going out of business, bills are piling up. And while that struggle resonated with me, he conveyed the lengths that he went through to keep his doors open, take care of his employees, even resulting in paying his staff on credit cards. And really, that taking care of people, that aspect really spoke to me. And I think when it comes to going above and beyond in terms of service and really helping me, like even with my education, like we talked about on the call, every time I'd call, the business aspect is there. But Mark, for example, shout out Mark, he's always, hey, how's your mom doing, man? Tell your mom I said hi. You guys know I'm a family man, right? There's nothing more important to me than my daughter Jade. And just seeing how Kevin did with his kids and with his family. And, I know his daughter was doing volunteer work. They were doing that together. She's getting awards before she's even 10. And they just do so much philanthropic work in the community. They help families in poverty, homelessness, hunger, abused and neglected children, supporting our veterans and military families, doing work with disaster relief. And then in terms of customer appreciation, taking all your clients out on a yacht, all hosted by the company, food, dancing, networking, open bar, and really just he brings us his clients into his life. Like, I was there for his baby announcement, and I think that really speaks to the company that's built behind his character. And so obviously you have to be good at what you do, but I really do want to vouch for Kevin for Independence Title, and I want to encourage and implore you guys out there to keep this in mind when you're running your own business. I mean, especially if you guys are starting from a tough situation like I was, or where a lot of my students start. Sometimes you can just be very profit oriented. And while the profit, that's what we're here for, it is important, just remember that there's more to the long-term game. So again, Kevin, I want to thank you again just for being here, for all your help through the years, for spending your time educating my audience. Looking forward to doing more mutual business and having much success in the future. And to the wholesaling family, if you guys got value from this, please do like, comment, subscribe. Helps channel out a great deal. Also, make sure you join my newer Facebook group. Just search Wholesaling with Mike on Facebook. It's a public group where you not only have a little bit more access to me to answer your questions, but where you can connect with one another, and not just for the dissemination of information and exchange of ideas, which is obviously important, but also to find JV partners and other people that you can work with and do deals with, find buyers. And I would really just love to grow that community. Likewise, make sure you guys follow me on Instagram, Mike Hill TWT. I've been putting out some exclusive content there. I did a giveaway last week. That was pretty cool. And you can send me your DMs there as well. So make sure you hit that bell notification. Leave me your questions. Thank you so much again for supporting the channel. I love you all. Wishing you the best. And we will talk again soon. All right? You guys take care. Peace.